Hello bookworms! Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I look forward to doing this tag every year. It's like one of the few tags that I really enjoy because I think it has really good questions and it's a really good way to just kind of check in on your reading for the year and to like reflect on what you have read and to also prioritize what it is that you want to read going forward for the rest of the year. So this original tag was created by Chami, but her video has since been deleted, which is a shame because this was such a great video, but I'll leave her channel linked down below so that you can check out her other videos. But I'm just gonna go ahead and get started because, as you guys know, I can never give just a one book answer for any question. So I'm gonna try to answer as minimally as possible, but we'll see how that goes. So the first question is the best book you've read so far in 2020. So I'm obviously going to have two. So my favorite fantasy book that I've read so far is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. There have definitely been a lot of books that I've enjoyed this year fantasy-wise, but this one is definitely like an all-time new favorite for me. I really like the characters that it follows. I really like the time period that it's in. I really like that we're getting my favorite characters back. So this is just like standout for me for the year. And then my favorite contemporary read of the year so far has been Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This is actually a debut rom-com following two characters named Pepper and Jack. I honestly just completely fell in love with this book. I read it back in January when it came out and I loved it so much. I inhaled it. They have warring restaurants, and after Pepper's family owns a big chain company and they come out with a new grilled cheese item on their menu, and then Jack's small family deli accuses them of stealing their family recipe and they get into a Twitter war with each other. And while all of that's happening online, Pepper and Jack are actually going to school together and becoming friends and slowly developing feelings for each other there, while also talking on an anonymous chat app and having feelings there. So there's like a whole bunch of layers to this story and it's just adorable and it's very New York and I loved it to pieces. Next is best sequel you've read so far in 2020. So again, I'm gonna cheat here, and the best adult sequel that I've read so far in 2020 is definitely The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan. This is the second book in the Wheel of Time series. I loved it from start to finish. I really just totally fell in love with this world and these characters when I started reading the first book, and I'm very excited to continue on the series. I'm currently reading The Dragon Reborn, but the third book is very slow going for me because I was having a rough time reading the past couple of months, but I am looking forward to getting back into it once my mind is like ready. Then my favorite YA sequel that I've read this year is Night of the Dragon by Julie Kagawa. This is the conclusion to the Shadow of the Fox series and I loved it. This series is basically like reading an anime. It's following a kitsune named Yumiko and she is tasked with protecting a part of this scroll that when used summons a dragon every 1,000 years, and the person in possession of the scroll can make a wish. And historically, no matter how well-intentioned that wish has been, it's always ended with like disastrous results and the person making the wish getting corrupted by the power. So she's trying to stop anyone from getting the scroll so that nothing bad will happen. And the whole series is just a journey series. They're picking up new people along the way. It's so good, so Japanese inspired. I loved all of the mythology in it. Everything about it was just excellent. This is just an all-time favorite series for me. I love the whole thing from start to finish. And then the best middle grade sequel that I've read is Nightfall by Shannon Messenger, which is the sixth book in the Keeper of the Lost City series. I started reading these last year, and this is another one where I just completely fell in love with the world. We're following an elf named Sophie who has grown up in the human world not knowing that the reason she was different is because she was not actually an elf, so she ends up being discovered and taken back into the world that she was meant to grow up in. I just love it. Like, her group of friends is so good. I think that there are so many issues in the series that are handled so excellently. I just really like the world, and I'm very curious to see how things are going to come to a close because there are some very high stakes at the moment. The next question is new release you haven't read yet but want to. So I actually have 3 books for this one, and some of these are upcoming releases, but I have art copies and one of them was already released. So I'll start with the one that was already released, and that is Anna K by Jenny Lee. I've heard that this one reads like Gossip Girl. I'm actually planning on reading it in the first week of July as part of Readathon. I will be getting to it very soon, but I just haven't read it yet. Next is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. So this one was actually supposed to come out in June, but it got delayed until August, and I have an art copy of it, so I am planning on reading this one in July as well. And finally, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This is one of my most anticipated books for the entire year, and I'm so excited that I have a copy of it. I am planning on either reading this one in July or August. I'm definitely going to be reading it before the release date, but I'm so excited. So excited. Next is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, so I'm going to pick 5. And these are 5 that I don't have my hands on yet because obviously Addie LaRue would be included in this list, but the 5 that I'm going to mention that I don't yet have copies of are The Shadow of Kyoshi, which comes out in July, so that one should be here very soon. That's the second book in the Kyoshi novel series by F.C. Yee. Next would be Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare. This is the second book in the Eldest Curses series. I really loved Red Scrolls of Magic. Magnus and Alec are 2 of my favorite characters in the Shadowhunter world, and I'm so excited for this next book. Next would be Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This is her newest novel. I really love her Stalking Jack the Ripper quartet. I think it is just perfect from start to finish. It was so good, and I'm so excited to see what she's gonna write next because of her old books. I feel like they just kept getting better and better, and I'm so excited to see her like tackle a new subject, and it's also going to be fantasy, and I just can't wait. Next would be Hollow Pox by Jessica Townsend. This is the 3rd book in the Nevermore series. So this one was actually supposed to come out in March, and then it got delayed until August, and now it just got delayed again until the end of October. So I'm really hoping that this one will actually come out this year. I've been really eagerly anticipating it. It's one of the middle grade series that I am like on top of the minute that it comes out. So I'm just waiting. And then the last new release that I'll mention is How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. This is the Cardan novella that we're getting, and it's going to have a little bit of an epilogue to Queen of Nothing, and it's all going to be told from Cardan's perspective, and it's going to be illustrated, so I'm quite excited for this one. Question 5, your biggest disappointment. That would be the first book that I read this year, and that was Normal People by Sally Rooney. I hated this book. I did not enjoy it at all. I only finished it because I told myself that I was going to try to read more adult literary fiction, so I kind of forced myself through it, but I hated it. I thought the characters were incredibly boring. I didn't like the way that it ended. It just felt like it had no point. Like, there were some things that I appreciated about it, but it was not an enjoyable reading experience for me personally. Question 6 is the biggest surprise, and for me that was The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. This is a historical romance novel, and it's just a genre that I never really got into, but I enjoyed the first Lisa Kleypas book that I read. It Happened on a Summer Night. Figured I would give another series a shot too, so I picked up The Duke and I loved this book. There's something that happens in it that is incredibly problematic, and I am by no means saying that that was okay, but I still really liked the book overall. I thought the characters were really entertaining, and I love stories about big families, so I just had such a fun time reading this one, and I'm really excited to read the rest of the series. Question 7 is favorite new author, whether they're a debut author or if they're just a new to you author. So my favorite new author would be Emma Lord, who I mentioned back in the first question. She came out with her debut rom-com earlier this year called Tweet Cute. I really loved it. I'm definitely going to pick up anything else that she writes in the future, like insta-buy. Question 8 is newest fictional crush, and I don't really have one. If I had to pick, I guess I would say Mac from Undercover Bromance by Lyssa Kay Adams. I really enjoyed his story in this book, and how supportive and helpful he was to Liv with everything going on with her in her career. It's not often that I get like very intense book crushes, if ever. Question 9 is newest favorite character, and that would be everyone in Chain of Gold. Like, I love everyone except for Grace because she's the worst, but everyone else is amazing and I love them forever. Question 10 is book that made you cry. So for this one, I'm going to say like a lot of the books that I read this year. I feel like I'm just full of emotion lately, and anytime that I read anything or watch anything like remotely sad or even something happy, I end up just crying. So this is the first year that I'll say most books. Question 11 is a book that made you happy. Again, I'm gonna go with Tweet Cute. I just had such a blast reading this one, and I also have nice memories attached to it because me, Alexa, Rachel, and DJ all read it around the same time, or well, DJ read it like way far in advance, but the rest of us read it around the same time, and then we ended up going out together to Melt Shop, which is a grilled cheese restaurant in New York City, and we got grilled cheese and milkshakes, and it was absolutely delicious, and it was really fun to like do that and have our books there with us because we're nerds. Number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought or received this year. At the moment, it is the Waterstones edition of Chain of Gold by Sandra Clare, but hopefully within the week or so, I did buy an even prettier edition of this book. I kind of splurged on it, but this is one of my favorite books of the year. I ended up getting the Illumicrate version because I found one on eBay that was, I don't want to say reasonable, but I went for it. That is definitely one of my favorite editions that I have seen so far of this book, but just all of the Chain of Gold. Question 13 is, what books do you need to read before the end of the year? So besides the ones I mentioned that I hadn't read yet, the three that I really want to focus on are all books that I was really anticipating in 2019 and never got around to reading, and those are The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I've obviously been talking about this one for quite a while, and I have a beautiful edition just calling to me. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which I'm like 90% sure is going to be my favorite Leigh Bardugo book that I've ever read, but I think I want to read this more in the fall, but I definitely want to read it before the end of the year. And finally, Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm really excited to read this one because of how much I love the Raven Boys, but I had kind of been putting it off because there was not really any news about book 2, but now we found out that it's going to be coming out next May. Either way, I was going to read it before the end of this year, but I feel even better about picking it up now that I know there is an actual time frame of when we're getting book 2. I'm sure that I could say a bunch of other books too, but these three are really like my priorities because they were three of my most anticipated books of last year, and I just still haven't read them. So yeah, that is the mid-year book freakout tag. I'm sure that you guys will be seeing a lot of people doing this one within the coming weeks or so. It's one that I look forward to doing every year, and I hope that you guys enjoyed my answers. Let me know what some of your answers to the questions were down below, and that's all that I have for this video, so I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!